Welcome to the latest edition of Patriots Roundtable here on CLNS Media, the leading online provider of audiovisual content for the New England Patriots. I'm Bobby Kravitsky. In the blue corner, we have Mike Alonji. He is the manager of the Patriots Beat Division of CLNS Media, making sure the trains run on schedule. And the gentleman in the Sitco hat is none other than Alex Barth, who's probably going to be showering himself in praise on today's show, as on Friday's pregame edition of Patriots Roundtable, he got quite a few predictions right. So props to you, Alex. And look, before we dive into dissecting the Patriots' 41-16 victory over the Denver Broncos, none of this would be possible without the godfather of CLNS Media, Nick Gelso. But I've also got to give a shout out to DraftKings. So listen up, Hoop fans. Basketball season is back, and now that your favorite hardwood heroes have returned to action, it's time for you to put your fantasy knowledge to the test, win huge cash prizes every night playing one-day fantasy basketball at DraftKings.com. At DraftKings, there are so many ways to play. Choose from public contests with huge cash prizes or private contests where you can compete against your friends. They've even got beginner and casual contests where you'll play against people of a similar skill level. The best part, guys, you get to draft a new team each day. And drafting a team is arguably the best part of fantasy. The only thing better, winning cash doing it. Just ask Dan from St. Louis or Jeremy from Austin. They both turned a $3 entry into a $10,000. Huge cash prizes and bragging rights await only at DraftKings. Be sure to use the code CLNS at DraftKings.com to play free with your first deposit for your share of $10,000 in total prizes tonight. Don't wait. Use code CLNS at DraftKings.com now to choose your lineup, and you can seriously cash in tonight. That's code CLNS only at DraftKings.com. The game inside the game. And just a reminder, minimum $5 deposit is required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details. Okay, guys, let's get down to the big victory for the Patriots in Mile High. The first thing I want to talk about, Alex, is the fact that the running backs, once again, have been the focal point of the offense, and I think it continues to pay huge dividends for the Patriots.
Yeah, we talked about it a bit, Bobby, on Friday. I touched on it on the pregame on Sunday that given the Broncos pass rush, which was non-existent last night, they were going to need to use the running backs, not just in the running game, but like we saw against the Chargers, swing the ball to the outside, get the running backs in space, throw that Broncos defensive front off their timing. And, you know, we get that bombshell before not really a bombshell, but we get that surprise before the game that Mike Gillislee was inactive, and you say, oh, wow, they're really going to abandon the run tonight. But the running backs were huge factors, and you want to talk about the running backs. The guy who was supposed to be the bell cow in Gillislee this year, he's been rendered irrelevant in this offense. It's just a matter of time right now until the Eagles cut LeGarrette Blount. Gillislee's on IR or gone or wherever, just on a one-year deal, and Blunt's back in here because outside of Gillislee, the running backs they have, everybody's filling a role very well. Rex Burkhead has stepped into the role Gillislee should have. They used him on that 4th and 1 in the first half last night. And that maybe we talked about, oh, you had Brandon Cooks, you had Philip Dorsett, now Marty Bennett coming in. What a threat these Patriots receivers were supposed to be. The running backs are the biggest tool on the offense this year, and I love it.
I'm right there with you, Alex. I mean, I think the running backs are definitely the biggest tool of this offense, which is surprising because you got guys like Rob Gronkowski, you have guys like Brandon Cooks, and you thought, wow, the Patriots are really going to be able to air the ball out this year. They're going to be able to throw it all over the yard. And really, it's kind of been a little different now. Tom Brady, obviously, on pace to throw for more rushing yards than he's ever thrown for in his career, yes. But at the same time, like you said, these running backs are the best players on this offense right now. Dion Lewis is reborn. He looks like he's fully healthy now from that injury to his knee. You have James White, who is picked up just where he left off in the Super Bowl. He is a consistent contributor to this team, probably the most consistent contributor to this offense at this point in the year. It's really just impressive. And like you said, Mike Gillislee being left out of the loop, who would have thought that when they signed him earlier this year? You know, as you said, he was kind of pegged to be the bell cow of this offense and of this running attack, rather. And, you know, it's been really the past couple of weeks, you've kind of, you know, the beginning of the season, you saw a lot from him. You said, wow, this guy's going to really, he's faster than we thought. He's a powerful runner. He can get between the tackles. But as we've seen over the past few weeks, Dion Lewis is now that runner between the tackles, which is something that I wouldn't have thought I would say, back in week one. Say, yeah, Dion Lewis will be the main guy between the tackles. James White is even getting more looks between the tackles, which I've kind of been calling for a couple of years now. I think James White has needed to run the ball a little more over the past couple of years. I'm glad to see that he's doing that now. And the LeGarrette Blount call is good. I mean, you're the prediction guy in this booth right now, so I don't know. I think
please.
Maybe you're right. But I don't know about LeGarrette Blount over here.
Yeah, Alex, I don't see LeGarrette Blount coming back, but what I do love about what the Patriots have going offensively with the running backs is that it's revitalized their short passing attack, which is huge for not only Tom Brady, not only moving the chains, but for the offensive line. You can see what a difference it's made for them. Remember, we kept talking about how they were going to get Tom Brady killed, and all of a sudden the running backs became the focal point. The ball's getting out of Brady's hands faster, and the offensive line in turn looks much better. Not to mention the balance they've brought in establishing a ground game, not to be confused with Adrian Peterson and the Vikings rushing attack in its prime, but nonetheless, the ability to have 26 carries and mostly be pretty effective, and that's without Mike Gillislee, speaks to how the Patriots are able to have much more balance than they were even a season ago with your boy LeGarrette Blount, who is mostly a short yardage and goal line back. Did that very well, but nonetheless, you get what I'm saying. Now, obviously, one of the big stories from last night, guys, was the return of Nassau's favorite tight end, Martellus Bennett. Mike, I was curious about the fact that you didn't know which way Dwayne Allen was going to react to Martellus Bennett returning to the mix. And he starts off, Brady looks his way, and he drops what should have been a touchdown in the end zone. New England has to settle for 3. And at that point, he could have been out the trust tree, and Brady goes back to not looking in his direction, but he stayed with him, and Allen delivered a huge touchdown.
Yeah, we really haven't seen much from Dwayne Allen this year, and that is putting it lightly. I mean, last night he had his first catch of the season, which is just, I mean, the second tight end of the Patriots offense can't get his first catch in week 10, right? I mean, that just can't happen. So it's needless to say it's been a disappointing year. But yeah, I mean, I think, like any competitive person, not even a football player, not even anything, just a competitive person in life, if someone is brought in to perceivably take your job, you're going to respond. You're going to need to respond. And we've all seen Tom Brady at times in the past. If someone drops a pass, I mean, you might as well just go home, because he's not going to throw you the ball again. So it was nice to see that they actually went back to him for that actual touchdown pass that he got. And as I tweeted out last night, if there's one thing Dwayne Allen can take solace in right now, it's that his catch to touchdown ratio is off the charts right now. So.
Yeah, no, I thought that did I just lose you guys there for a second?
You're still here.
I got you, brother.
I'm still there. Okay, I just want to make sure. All right, yeah, no, I said on the show Friday, obviously, I thought Dwayne Allen was going to have a big game, and I guess what he did qualifies as a big game for what he's been this year, but the offense now is another angle, and I'm not sure Dwayne Allen needs to be concerned about Martellus Bennett and that they're two completely different players, especially with the shoulder injury. As good of a blocker as Bennett is, you're not going to see him used in that role very much. I wouldn't expect so. And then on the other side, Allen primarily is a blocker. He's a decent pass catcher, but his strength is in blocking. He had a great game last night setting up the run. You talk about their ability to run in between the tackles last night. Dwayne Allen was a big part of that. I think what Bennett coming in does is allows Dwayne Allen to play more in his comfort role. He was trying to be Martellus Bennett, and he's just not that guy. The role they had him in last night, primarily as a blocking tight end, used him a little bit in the red zone. He is going to thrive in that role. And if Martellus Bennett can stay healthy and they can use him on, like they did last night, that screenplay, use him to eat up yards galloping down the field, Dwayne Allen's going to fit in nicely as that third blocking tight end, occasional red zone threat. That's where he should be. And I think Belichick figured it out last night. And it just, the reason I just want to say, the people will say, well, why didn't they use him like that all year? The Patriots offense is so predicated on a 2 tight end set. Jacob Hollister is still very young, and you saw them go to Hollister as that second tight end. They needed Allen to play that second tight end role before he could play the third. Now they have the personnel where they can use Dwayne Allen the way they actually want to use him.
Well, it's interesting, Alex, and something we talked about on Friday when we were previewing last night's game is the fact that the biggest struggle for Dwayne Allen has been learning the playbook. That's been the biggest challenge for him. And it happens. We've seen guys who've been in the league a lot longer than Dwayne Allen come in and struggle to pick up the offense because of how complex it can be. But now that Bennett's here, I think it helps elevate Allen because it puts him in a marginalized role where he doesn't have to worry about as much. So it already paid dividends with Bennett just coming in a few days and them being able to tell Dwayne Allen, look, you just need to know this, this, and that, and you'll be good to go. And sure enough, he was. He gets open for a touchdown. He can't make the play. He comes back. He fights through being held by two defenders, keeps running his route, and makes a nice catch on a perfect throw by Brady for a touchdown. You can see how good that felt for him. You can see how fired up the team was for him. And so when Martellus Bennett came back, a lot of people, rightfully so, talked about how much he can help in the red zone. I think he can also help Dwayne Allen specifically. Now, as we talk about those red zone factors, those difference makers, guys with size, I saw yesterday, it was interesting that the Patriots were able to have a lot more success using the tight ends, using Rex Burkhead on an angle route. I thought it was really successful and encouraging to see them pick it up and start to put 6 on the board instead of settling for 3 down there.
Yeah, no, the red zone still needs some work, but obviously now having that other bigger tight end, it's going to help.
Yeah, I would just say, obviously at the beginning of the game, a lot of tweets were flying. I don't know. I was saying things. I know Alex was saying things. The red zone offense was not looking great again early in the game. They had a couple drives where they had to settle for 3. Bobby, you mentioned the one where Dwayne Allen dropped that touchdown pass. They had another one earlier in the game. So, at first you're thinking, wow, this red zone offense, what are they doing? How this is a team that has historically been unbelievable in the red zone in relation to other teams in the league. So it was pretty surprising to see that they weren't doing so well for the first 9-10 weeks of the season. But as you said, as the game went on, I think they did start to figure it out a little bit. I agree. I think having Dwayne Allen, I think having Martellus Bennett will absolutely help in the red zone. That's a spot where I think you'll probably primarily see him because, again, if we don't know what's up with his shoulder, I'll be the first to admit I have no idea what is going on with
I don't think he even does. I don't think he even knows.
You're right. Because, whatever he's saying, I don't know. That's a whole different show altogether, honestly. But the fact is if he's hurt, you're going to see him very limited role. What did he play? 8 snaps last night? You're probably going to see him in that 10 to 15 snap per game range until he's, healthy enough to play more than that. And if that's the case, you're going to see him primarily on 3rd down and you're going to see him primarily in the red zone. And that's where you got to use him. He's a big body. He can, like you said, he can block. He can do a little bit of everything, but you don't want to use him blocking. You'll probably see him on 3rd down and in the red zone going forward.
Oh, it's funny, Mike, you say that. And I said the same thing. I said, keep him either in the red zone or near the sidelines. Don't put him in position to get hit. And they run a screen to him in the middle of the field on 1st down.
Yeah. It's funny.
They used him, quite frankly, on a route that Dwayne Allen's not the fastest guy, so it's not ideal for him. But they used him, like you said, Alex, open field. It wasn't 3rd down. They weren't in the red zone on what's called a Y sneak, which just means the tight end sneaks through the backside. And Martellus Bennett, like most tight ends in that situation, wide open coming across the middle with plenty of room to run. So there's going to be situations.
That was his play last year. That was his bread and butter last year, too.
Yeah, he's really effective at that. Clearly, it's not going to be exclusively red zone sideline so he can step out of bounds and preserve himself. Short yardage plays, 3rd down plays. Clearly, they have designs to use him more than that. But, Mike, I think you nailed it. 10 to 15 snaps a game. Defensively now, a guy who nearly gave up 10 catches was Malcolm Butler. He was the story defensively, unfortunately for the wrong reasons, consistently getting beat against Emmanuel Sanders. Alex, I put out a tweet. I'm curious to get your reaction to it last night, saying that Malcolm Butler last night in particular cost himself some cash. It was a primetime game, a matchup against a premier wide receiver in Emmanuel Sanders. He's going up against a bad quarterback in Brock Osweiler, and he gives up 6 catches for 137 yards, consistently getting beat. He also got a penalty. So in my estimation, Malcolm Butler last night cost himself some cash.
So I don't think I'm as disappointed in Malcolm Butler as some other Patriots fans are here this Monday morning. First of all, not an elite receiver. Elite speed, not elite. Emmanuel Sanders overrated.
Premier wide receiver.
Premier. Okay, not premier. I wouldn't say premier. He's fast. Doesn't have great ball skills. Doesn't have the size. You're right. Malcolm Butler cost himself some money last night, but I think he stuck to the game plan. And he cost himself some money at the benefit to the team. I gained a lot of respect for Malcolm Butler last night. I said this on the pregame, Bobby. We said it on Friday. If the Broncos are going to beat you, make them do it throwing the ball 40, 50 times. Take the run away, make them throw it. They were able to take Demaryius Thomas out of the game. Stephon Gilmore probably had his best game last night as a Patriot. I thought he looked really good. And with Emmanuel Sanders, he's the big play threat. So what did Butler do? He respected his speed. He played off him, let him catch the ball, and was in position to make the tackle on the catch every time. And Butler's one of the best tackling corners in the league. That's something he can do. Not every corner can play like that. But he didn't want to come up at the line. How many times did we see Aqib Talib last night try to man up somebody and get beat over the top? That's the flip side. And that's what Malcolm Butler didn't want to happen. He was respecting Sanders' speed. It was part of the game plan. They didn't want to get burnt for the big play. They didn't want Denver to pick up any momentum at home. So Butler played it safe. He played it cautious. And I have no problem with that. Who outside of Emmanuel Sanders hurt the Patriots last night on that Denver offense? Nobody. And if Emmanuel Sanders is going to have, what did he have, 6, 7 catches? Around 100 yards, fine. I'm okay with that. If that's their biggest offensive output, you're going to win that game. I have no problem with Malcolm Butler last night. I understand why people think it didn't look good, but that was by design. He did, I would assume it was by design because I've seen him play Sanders better than that. He did what he needed to do. It worked in the defensive scheme. And how about this? What people are missing in Malcolm Butler's perceived bad game, which wasn't, the defense had a pretty complicated scheme last night. They were running stunts up front. They were passing coverages around in the secondary. Stephon Gilmore handled it. The rest of the defense handled it. All we heard for the month of September was there were miscommunications left and right in the defense. They didn't know what was going on. They knew what was going on last night. That was a complicated scheme in the secondary that they pulled off. I have no problem with Malcolm Butler last night. That was the best game of the year for the secondary. Everybody needs to understand what the game plan was and understand what he did. You're right. He left money on the table. It wasn't good optics. And he knew what he was doing. And he did it for the benefit of the team. That was an absolute total Patriot way game for Malcolm Butler last night.
Yeah, just speaking on the the defensive scheme and the miscommunications and things, that we actually saw that in, what was it, I think it was 3 of the first plays of the game. They had 2 really big completions to Emmanuel Sanders. Malcolm Butler left someone left and didn't have anyone to pick him up. So the miscommunications are getting better for sure. And this was, I agree with Alex. I think this was, on the defense as a whole's part, this might have been their best game. They played really well out there tonight. Stephon Gilmore did a great job against Demaryius Thomas, who, let's all be honest, has not lived up to the hype that he had in his first couple of years in the league when he was, one of these premier wide receivers when Peyton Manning was throwing him the ball. He has fallen off precipitously since then. So Demaryius Thomas, not the greatest wide receiver. Emmanuel Sanders, I'm with you. I don't think he's elite. I don't think he's necessarily premier, so to speak, but I would say that he's an above average wide receiver. He definitely has, good speed, and he's, I tweeted this out last night. He's kind of always diced up the Patriots ever since he was in Pittsburgh. He's kind of been having these games where he gets loose and he can do some things. The speed helps him. He is a pretty decent route runner, not a great, unbelievable route runner, but he's a good route runner. And he had Malcolm Butler on skates a couple of times out there. But I agree. I think that for the most part, they were not letting themselves get beat deep down the field, anything like that. They were stopping the run. And they were really saying, you want to throw it to Emmanuel Sanders 15 times, throw it to Emmanuel Sanders 15 times. And if he scores 1 touchdown, that's fine. That's 7 points, and they scored 41. So it's tough to say, yeah, Malcolm Butler. I agree with you guys. I think the optics were not good for Malcolm Butler. I think there's definitely a decent chance that he's not going to make as much money in the offseason. But then again, he could come out next week and absolutely shut down the number 1 wide receiver in Oakland. What was it? Amari Cooper, right? Or he'd actually probably more likely
Cooper, Crabtree, whoever, yeah.
He'd probably more likely be on Crabtree. I think they'd probably approach it the same way as they approached it this week, and they'd probably put Gilmore, the bigger guy, on Amari Cooper. But that's besides the point. You know what I mean? I think that he could go out there and absolutely shut down Crabtree or Cooper next week, and we would say, well, look at Malcolm Butler. He's got all these, he's playing so great right now. So I think it plays a little bit of both ways, but I agree. I mean, the optics were not great last night.
So I'm going to go machine gun style here and address each of those points quickly. First, we'll start with my boy Manny Sanders. We agree to disagree, clearly. That's fine, but I think he's a pretty good route runner who's dangerous with the ball in his hands. And Alex, you're right. That was an area that Malcolm Butler isn't getting enough credit for. His ability to take down Manuel Sanders after the catch, limiting and minimizing the yak. And then as far as Butler after the game, I loved what I saw from him when you talk about the Patriots way, Alex. The fact that you could see he was genuinely happy about the team win. He didn't seem like someone who was caught in his own head, which that might have been a problem at some point during the game, but he seemed to work his way through it. And the reaction after the game spoke to Malcolm Butler's character and why we as Patriots fans love him so much for that relentless competitive drive he has and the confidence you need to play that position with. Now, I don't think the game plan was, hey, Malcolm Butler, if you get beat, it's okay. What made all the difference after that happened was that the Patriots locked Denver down in the red zone. Obviously, going up against a quarterback the caliber of Brock Osweiler helps in that area, but nonetheless, the Patriots were pretty good against the run all night, and when they got down to the red zone, Mike, they were able to force them to settle for 3 points.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And this, how many times are you going to say it? The bend but don't break defense, right? I mean, that's this Patriots team. That's what they've kind of always been ever since what was it like? Ever since their defense stopped being elite back in what was it 2007 when they really, even though they had an elite offense, they also had elite players on defense like Rodney Harrison and Teddy Bruschi and all that stuff. So the bend but don't
2014 was pretty good too.
2014 was pretty good. You're right. And the bend but don't break has been the pervasive thought on this Patriots defense for quite some time now. And listen, this was the 5th straight game where they gave up 17 or less points, right? So I mean, they are bending but not breaking. They are not giving up as many points as they were giving up early in the season. They're not giving up any more than 20 points a game. They gave up. I think the numbers is 14, 17, 7, 16, and 16. So I mean, they're really playing well in the red zone, and that's a credit to the coaching. That's a credit to the players who are stepping up and making the plays when they need to be made. I mean, obviously it's not pretty. Obviously, as fans, you don't want to see your team get just rolled against in between the 20s, and then all of a sudden you hold them to a field goal. Well, great, that's cool, but I mean, you just watch them give up a 30-yard pass and then a 15-yard run and all this stuff. So it's not great for the fans to see. But at the end of the day, I mean, in the NFL, you'll probably win if you give up 17 or less points a game. So,
yeah, I thought the red zone defense last night was good, and it goes back to the game plan against Emmanuel Sanders. You have an 18-yard slant route when you're running it from the 35. When you get down to the 10, that's not there because eventually you get to a point where safety help's coming in. And that was the thing. They were fine putting Butler one-on-one with Sanders, using the safety help elsewhere, knowing Butler could tackle. And in the red zone, you have to change that. Emmanuel Sanders is far from a red zone threat. That's where Demaryius Thomas is the guy, and they beat the crap out of him last night like they needed to do. So, yeah, they have figured out in the red zone, and it was you said it right, Mike. It was a textbook bend, don't break game last night. It's not always the most fun thing to watch, but you'll take field goals all day.
Oh, without question, Alex. Those are wins for the Patriots defense when you hold the opponent to 3 points inside the red zone. I thought Stephon Gilmore, you're right, probably his best game as a Patriot, maybe his second best considering that he locked down Mike Evans and was facing a better quarterback in Jameis Winston, that Thursday night game against Tampa Bay. And guys, the Patriots didn't just play well offensively or defensively. We've briefly hit on it a couple times throughout the program today. Special teams, the third phase of the game, an area the Patriots dedicate more resources to than any other team in the league, bar none. And it makes such a difference in terms of field position. And last night, it really was the biggest difference maker in the game, in my estimation, starting with that tone-setting fumble on the punt return where Jacob Hollister scoops it up, sets up the Patriots' first touchdown of the game. Rex Burkhead blocks a punt. That sets up more points. And, of course, Dion Lewis taking it back 103 yards to the house. I thought special teams was the biggest difference maker in the game last night, Alex.
Yeah, no, special teams is great. I said it off the top. I may have said it in the show. I'm actually recording another show right now, but if I didn't say it, I'll say it again. People criticize Belichick in the offseason for letting certain players go to keep extra special teams hands on. And we saw it against the Chargers, and we saw last night against the Broncos. This team is being carried by special teams right now. They really are. An excellent game last night for the special teams. And what we haven't talked about, Steven Gostkowski, who's been up and down this year, didn't miss a kick last night. He didn't give any chance for the Broncos to put momentum back in. He's perfect on extra points, perfect on field goals, nothing with too high of a difficulty level. It was Denver, but we didn't have to say his name much last night, and that's ultimately what you want out of the kicker. He got everything done. The punt block is great. The Dion Lewis return obviously is awesome. Those aren't things you can count on week to week. The little things, the punt coverage, which they only had to do once, I guess, because they had the other one called back on the 12-man. The kick return coverage, all the other little stuff was excellent last night.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's just really impressive. You don't get plays like that in an entire season when you block a kick and return a kick for a touchdown and make all these plays. And the Patriots did all of those things in one game last night. So
it was special teams bingo.
It was. And I tweeted out last night, I said, the Patriots special teams are literally making this game unfair. Without these special teams plays, you have at least a decent game. You have what? Probably maybe a 30-16 game as opposed to a 41-16 game.
Okay, the Love punt had it 10-0 off the jump, and then the Denver defense just quit.
Yeah, and that's what these plays will do to a team, though. That's the
14-0,
thing.
14-0.
Right, and when you make these plays, when you return a kick for a touchdown, when the guy who catches your first touchdown of the game then goes ahead and blocks a punt that leads to another touchdown, I mean, how demoralizing is that for it? It's a combination of things. It's really impressive and like you said, I mean, the Patriots do donate more resources to special teams than any other team in football. There's no question about it. There are special teams coaches former special teams coaches who are head coaches in the league. Guys like John Harbaugh, excuse me. Guys like that who were special teams coaches, and they don't even pay as much attention to special teams as a guy like Bill Belichick. So it's impressive. It's great, but it's a testament to how hard this team works in that area of the game.
What was all the hype when Burkhead came in, 4-down player? We saw it last night.
Absolutely.
I kept saying that last night. Rex Burkhead, 4-down player, showed up on all 4 downs last night. Maybe he played well enough for one of you to give him your game ball. Michael-Angie, let's start with you. See who you were feeling last night, who you'd give your game ball to.
Yeah, that's the guy. That's the guy, no doubt. He only totaled 63 yards from scrimmage on offense, but when you factor in the blocked punt, he did still play on the kickoff coverage team. He made some good plays. He's always in that mix, and he obviously has the reception touchdown early in the game. Just a really impressive all-around game. I tweeted out earlier, I think, Tom Brady, now that Rex Burkhead is fully healthy, he's got his ribs all taken care of. Everything's fine. Tom Brady is going to get the absolute most out of Rex Burkhead on offense, without question. They're going to run him between the tackles. They're going to run him. They're going to line up in the slot. They're going to line him up in the backfield with those running back wheel routes that they love so much. And he's going to bring a totally different dynamic. I think that, a lot of times in years past, we've looked at this Patriots running back core and said, okay, well, when LeGarrette Blount's in the game, they're obviously going to run the ball. And when James White's in the game, they're obviously going to throw the ball. Well, now we're seeing when they're mixing in carries for guys like James White, they're mixing in carries for guys like Dion Lewis and Rex Burkhead. These running backs, you have no idea what's going to happen when they're on the field. They could run Dion Lewis between the tackles, or they could run him on that wheel route. Same thing with Rex Burkhead. They could line him up in the backfield, then all of a sudden flex him out in the slot and throw that slant, and that's a touchdown. So Rex Burkhead is going to be a very big contributor for this team going forward, and last night's performance was very impressive, more than enough to earn my game ball.
So, Alex, who's your game ball going to?
There are a couple guys I could go to. Marty Bennett just getting on the field. He was a big part. Brady was great, obviously. I get real nitpicky, all 22 footage type, and go with Dietrich Wise. But I'm going to go with Adrian Waddle here. And there's a lot of contenders, but ultimately, the second best player on the field last night from either team is Brady number 1, Von Miller number 2 was wholly irrelevant. We saw nothing from Von Miller. Adrian Waddle, backup guard. Marcus Cannon, a late scratch. didn't get much help. There wasn't much help from the running backs or the tight ends on Von Miller, at least not that I saw. And he did nothing. So Adrian Waddle went above and beyond last night. I don't think anybody expected to get that performance from him. I don't think the Patriots did because they were still getting the ball out quick, but Adrian Waddle may have earned him, I believe his contract's up at the end of the year, earned himself a starting role somewhere in the NFL next year just with his performance last night alone. You talk about how Butler may have cost himself money. Adrian Waddle bought himself a beach house last night.
He certainly did, Alex. And it was interesting, rather head-scratching, probably a more appropriate way to put it, that Denver didn't try to generate more pressure against the Patriots, specifically on that side of the line. But Waddle, who did have help at times from tight ends, from running backs chipping, he more than held his own. He's proven to be a starting caliber tackle in this league as he gets right.
What says it all is they started putting Von Miller in coverage because he wasn't getting home on the pass rush, and they didn't want to waste him. That says everything.
Yeah, nothing drives it home more than that. I think they were trying to take up as much space as possible. In general, they weren't trying to come after Brady, and he just carved them up. And a huge part of him carving up is the guy I'm giving my game ball to, someone we haven't mentioned by name this entire program, and that is Josh McDaniels. I thought he called a brilliant game against Denver. If you remember, Alex, we talked in the preview show on Friday about how they have consistently tried to attack Denver's linebackers in coverage, and they've had mixed results. Well, last night was a grand slam home run for Josh McDaniels and the Patriots running backs and their tight ends against Denver's linebackers, and even to a lesser degree, their safeties, consistently finding ways to get them the ball in space, getting the ball out of Brady's hands quickly so that he was barely touched, only sacked once, makes the offensive line look good, helps you dominate the time of possession, helps you move the ball down to the red zone where their size, the return of Martellus Bennett, Dwayne Allen's marginalized role makes them more effective. You're able to put points on the board. So I thought Josh McDaniels and his ability to get the short passing attack going without Julian Edelman is something that can pay huge dividends for the Patriots in their pursuit of a 6th Lombardi trophy. That's going to wrap it up for today's episode, guys. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. You can also find this at your convenience on Twitter at CLNS Media or right here on our YouTube page at CLNS Media. Once again, this has been the latest episode of the Patriots Roundtable right here on CLNS Media, the leading online provider of online audio-visual content for the New England Patriots. I'm Bobby Kravitsky. In the blue, it's Michael Longi. In the Sitco hat, it's Alex Barth. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great week.